Welcome back to Spitballin Cards. In today's video, we're going to have an overreaction episode. We're going to react to the first weekend of baseball games. We are recording Monday night, so we're going to react to probably the first 3 to 5 games, depending on which team you're a fan of, some of which haven't started playing tonight because it's about 9:30. But we're going to discuss which players we wish we would have bought more cards of from the start we've seen, and which players we maybe wish we would have stayed away from in the offseason with our buying practices. So let's introduce who's here. It is me, Scott. We have Phil, Jeff, and Chris. Ty is not here this week. Ty, if you're listening, you rock, but we're going to jump into this really fast. So, Phil, which player has impressed you the most and made you wish that you bought more of their cards so far?
To be honest, this guy's a little under the radar. We've talked about him a little bit, not a lot. Josh Young. I know he had a calf injury pretty early in spring training, and we didn't really know if he was going to be ready. Well, it turns out he didn't miss any games, and he's been playing pretty well. And if you look at his makeup, I know he's a little bit older. I get it. And that's always going to hurt him. It's always going to put a ceiling on his values versus an Austin Riley. But he profiles very similarly, in my opinion, to Austin Riley. Kind of middle of the road batting average. Decent defender last year, at least by Fangraphs WAR. And the power is legit. And last year, his overall stat line was sort of not too impressive, but he missed a lot of time from injury. So I think this year, if he stays healthy, now with him, health, not just age, will be a risk factor, because he's been hurt quite a bit over the last 4 or 5 years. But that's a guy that I could see doing some amazing things in that lineup while everybody's paying attention to Wyatt Langford. And pitchers are paying attention to Adolis Garcia and Evan Carter and other guys, and Corey Seager, of course. I mean, that lineup's stacked. Juan Soto is a guy that I still PC. And maybe if I had picked up a few more of his things before it was official that he was going to the Yankees, the rumors were coming on really strong. Couldn't tell what was real and what was fake, and that's the issue with today's Twitterverse and everything. But it seemed more and more likely like it was going to happen. I picked up one card of his, but I probably should have went in a little bit harder, because now, I'm sitting on a couple bigger cards, and I PC'd the dude. So I don't really want to part with him. So it would have been nice to have a card that I could maybe flip. And I did, but maybe another one that I could flip after a hot April. That's crazy. They swept the Astros. Literally, that's been their kryptonite for years. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets an early extension, or if they at least try, because that means a lot on the road, right? And this is a guy that's known to punish the Astros.
I want to say, Phil, he had his hand in every individual game that they would have not won without him. At least they wouldn't have won. At least they probably would have lost 2 or 3 games at least without him on that lineup. So yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Mookie Betts, still early. I'm sure he'll slow down. He's not that good. Just kidding. He's been absolutely amazing. We were looking at the WRC Plus leaderboards, and he's over by 400, top in the league. Played the most games, but still WRC Plus. That's you don't get extra credit for playing extra games there, but with WAR you do. And of course, he was double everybody else in the league in WAR. Mike Trout, he's been doing pretty good. 2 home runs today, but I'm sure he'll be injured soon enough. So, and I've got enough of his stuff already. So I'm sure I'll feel regret that I didn't sell his stuff instead of buying more in a few weeks.
What about Bobby Miller, Phil? I know you like Bobby Miller.
Bobby Miller was very, very good, even though he struck out a lot of guys. Probably his best start in his career. The whiffs weren't really there. He didn't get a whole lot of swinging strikes, and he had the opposite problem last year. So he changed his pitch usage mix a little bit, and we saw some good results, and hopefully more to come from Bobby. But I could see him regressing a little bit. Same with Grayson, maybe. I mean, they can't be that good all the time.
Okay. What about you, Jeff? Who is a player? Give me the same people Phil mentioned, if you have your own spin on it, but who is a player that you kind of feel bad you didn't buy more of?
Yeah, well, Phil touched on a lot of the guys I do collect, and especially with Mookie, it's hard because we did pick up a few big Mookies in the last several months, but his prices seem so far down, which sadly we've been saying that for the last several years for his ability. So, yeah, after seeing the scorching start, yeah, I wish I would have picked up a little more of him. Also, Phil mentioned Grayson Rodriguez, who is another guy who I was glad to see with a great first start. And there probably will be regression. There'll be some slide backs to some of what he did last year. But last year, after he came back up, he was a much better pitcher. The problem with some of these guys is, Phil mentioned it with Trout also, is I already had so much of them that I couldn't really justify buying more, even though their prices had went down. So one guy I was happy I picked up a few more of over the offseason was Manny Machado. I feel like that Padres team can surprise some people. That lineup is actually pretty good. So I'm glad I got that. As we've talked about before, Chris and I decided to take this opportunity this offseason to invest in a pitcher, as it were. So yeah, those Garrett Coles aren't looking too great right now, and I wish that would have went into some of the other players we've mentioned. But it's fun to see these hot starts from these stars. Juan Soto is probably my favorite player, and I'm just so used to him coming out of the gate so slowly. It's nice to see him come out hot. And my picks, Chris and I on Blabbing About Slabbing last week did our award picks and playoff picks, and I did pick the Yankees to make a run to the ALCS. So I feel like they're looking pretty good actually after the first weekend. So we'll see if they stay healthy. But
yeah, that's the same thing with Mookie, right? That's why I'm excited for him, because usually his Aprils are like a 720 OPS, and then he has great July through September, typically. Last year, it was basically every month but April, which is very typical for Mookie. April is a slow start. For whatever reason, if he can have a good April, his MVP odds that's obvious, but his MVP odds are significantly higher. And that's really exciting for him, because usually the best has yet to come for his play. I don't think he'll surpass what he's doing right now, but I think, a 900 OPS for every single month past April is definitely possible. And if he has an OPS over 1,000, then we're looking at 950 to 1,000 OPS. Plus, defense, shortstop has been average so far, which is great. So hopefully that can continue. I did sell some big Mookies this offseason. I don't really regret it, just because they were a price that I felt comfortable selling. But I did also buy one Mookie. I bought a black BGS 9.5 from 2014 Topps Update, which is cool. So, and then Chris, we haven't heard anything from you yet. Who are you glad you didn't buy or sad you didn't buy?
Well, I'm just dealing with Mookie Betts like shell shock syndrome, because I'm in 2 head-to-head fantasy leagues, and the matchup was just the opening weekend, and I faced Mookie Betts in both leagues, and he just battered me. I had no chance in every offensive category. It's a bummer. And that smug smile on Jeff's face is because one of those leagues was against Jeff, who has Mookie Betts. If talk about Bobby Miller really briefly, I do kind of wish I picked up. I have him in a couple leagues, but I don't have any cards of his. And his changeup, he's on Pitching Ninja in the last couple of days, was just disgusting. Some of the run he was getting on that pitch is crazy. Grayson Rodriguez too. These guys both look. I don't know. I don't want to say regression. I feel like they both have a chance to really step up. But the guy to me that looks really great and looks better than even I thought he was going to look, that I didn't buy anything of, is Michael Harris. And I just kept putting it off. And I'm like, sometime this offseason, those Bowman Chromatos are going to dip in price. They're going to dip in price, and that's why I'm going to grab one. And they really didn't. And he's moved up to the 6 hole and seems more than ready to step up. So I'm kind of bummed that I didn't grab something in the offseason. It might have been my last chance to make a realistic Michael Harris purchase, but we'll see.
I told you this. I think I told the group this. My players that I'm like really excited about for this year, and I think their prices have a pathway to move forward. And Michael Harris is one of them. I'm actually going to release a video on that on Thursday or Friday of this week about Michael Harris.
You and I just disagreed on whether his current price was.
Yeah, and that's something really to consider. Was his prices were already high, but like you mentioned, was that lower than we anticipated with who he is at age 23 this year? With, kind of being overshadowed. If he was on the Yankees up to this point, people would already be all over his cards because he's really good. But because he's hidden at the bottom of the lineup behind 4 or 5 All-Stars, it was tough. So,
yeah. I also want to say, Phil, I did not realize that as a Red Sox fan, does it feel weird to PC a Yankee player? A guy who's probably going to be a Yankee lifer? As a Braves fan, I have a nice Bryce Harper PC, and sometimes I look at it and I do get angry when I see it. So I feel like as the years go by, your Soto PC may start to cause you some emotional distress.
It's funny you say that. And if you look at the whole Yankee team now, in my opinion, they're a lot more likable than they used to be. Yeah. As a Red Sox fan and Yankee hater throughout, most of my life. Now I kind of look at the team and I'm like, there's not one player in this team that really annoys me. Judge is a stand-up dude, pretty good leader. And there's already like a pretty cool chemistry between him and Soto in the outfield. I'm sure you guys have seen it if you've seen like the John Boy replays and everything, his breakdowns. But I see like behind the colors of the uniforms, and I'm a true baseball fan first, more than I am a Red Sox fan. And it's funny, I always had this like weird argument for why I would never get a Red Sox tattoo on my arm. I mean, obviously it would look stupid on me, but in addition to that, what if one of the players, I used Kevin Youkilis as my example back in the day. What if I came home and he was like sleeping with my girlfriend or my wife? Like, then I just have this tattoo. I support you like blindly, but you know nothing about me. So there's always been like some weird, I don't know. I don't know if it's like me being narcissistic or if it's me being, I don't know, thinking about things the right way and just being realistic. And like right now, we're not trying to win. So why would I spend a whole lot of time watching my team versus a team with actually like exciting players and being in a lot of fantasy leagues? I've got a lot of other players that I can root for, in addition to the PC players from a card perspective. So I don't know. It kind of hurts. And if it is a long-term extension, then maybe I'll just buy a Yankees jersey and it'll be my first one. I don't know, man.
That's Phil. I feel the exact same way about the Rockies and the Dodgers. I'm a Rockies fan. They're going to be bad for a long time in the toughest division in baseball. And so either I can be miserable and not watch sports, or I can watch the guys I PC, and Mookie Betts is one of them on the Dodgers, who I historically have hated with a passion. We're like the little brother. They don't care about us, and that's fine, you know. But now I find myself watching significantly more Dodgers games than Rockies games, like 10-1, because I'd rather watch Mookie Betts and a team that's not horrendous like the Rockies. But
this whole discussion, Scott, is the reason, or one of the reasons, I know a lot of us play fantasy baseball, because it gives you other players to root for and collect cards. Like Phil said, you've got a PC of a player. So yeah, it feels like you can invest yourself in more than just your favorite team, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. I've always said, though, the moment Mookie does not play for the Dodgers, I will not watch another game of theirs. Like I could not care less about that. So I'm literally watching for him and him alone. If he's hurt, I will not watch a game of theirs. You know,
in the early 2000s, there are some people making the argument that fantasy baseball is bad for the game because it makes people blindly and unconditional supporters of Barry Bonds. Like, this is back when everybody hated Bonds. I'm sure the four of us all hated him. Now we probably hate him a little bit less, and maybe some of us even like him now. But it's interesting because now fantasy isn't drawing us back to Bonds; it's statistics. You know, it's that. Maybe that's a separate episode, but
I think we all feel a little bit different about steroids than we did in the early 2000s too, right? But that is definitely a conversation for their episode. We probably don't want to just dive a little bit too much into. So there's actually one other player that, well, maybe two, that I kind of wish I would have bought. Anthony Volpe. He had some pretty cheap prices, and he's looked really good so far. So he's someone that I think has a ton of potential, maybe less pressure in that lineup. And if he's able to have a 5-WAR season, his cards are going to be pretty expensive. And then Bobby Witt is a player that now that I'm a Bobby Witt, like, not believer in him, there were just some things in his game when he first came up, which is fine. All young players need to develop unless they're Mike Trout. And I just was a little bit concerned about his OBP and some of his defensive metrics. He literally fixed his defense, and now he's looking like he could be the legit, real deal, you know, future face of Major League Baseball type player. So he's looking good.
One comment I want to say, Scott, we're talking about some of these players like Bobby Witt, and I would add J-Rod and Churio as a Brewer fan. I mean, they're all great, and they were already so expensive to me. So
yeah, that's the issue too.
Not buying them more in the off season, just because realistically I wasn't going to be able to buy any of their cards that I'd want anyway. So it's hard to regret those type of guys.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. That's a lot of my issue with a lot of the modern rookies, is they have so many rookie cards. So like the stuff that's really going to be desired is not cheap. There's a few veterans who have not been good, just straight up not been good so far. Small sample size, but they don't look great either. Aaron Judge has not looked good. And that could be because he was injured for part of spring training and he was sitting. So that could just be carrying over, and that would not surprise me at all. And that can put you behind the 8 ball a little bit. But also Nolan Arenado just looks like he's lost. Like, straight up, he has this new thing. I don't know if you guys watched him. He has this new thing where he has like this half swing. He doesn't finish his swing on balls that are like a low and away. And so he's just having weak contact. He's looked really bad. And then Jordan has not looked good yet. He's looked surprisingly bad too. But obviously very early. That's the thing about baseball, is you can't even get caught up in like a month, like 30 games. If they have a bad 30 games, they can have a great other 4 or 5 months, and then they're MVP. So it's hard to really look at it too much, but there's a real chance. Like Arenado really concerns me. I bought some Arenado this offseason because I like him as a player, but there's some other players that do make me worried for their cards.
Yeah, Arenado did not look good. I watched a lot of the Dodger Cardinal series, and he did not look good. I mean, again, it was like 3 or 4 games, so anything could have just been off, whatever. But yeah, it not a great, like, if he's looking to kind of bounce back after last year, he did not get off to a good start. Jordan missed a walk-off 3-run bomb against the Yankees by like 1/32 of an inch off the bat. Like, I think Judge caught it like on the track on right center.
Yeah.
I mean, he's there. I'm not long-term concerned about Jordan, but that is a rough series for Houston. Like 4 bullpen losses in a row. And yeah, Soto looks awesome. But yeah, Arenado is definitely a guy that I feel like, and Goldschmidt too, quite frankly, didn't look amazing. I think he had a solo shot against the Dodgers. But
he looked better. At least he got, all Goldschmidt.
The Cardinals in general, like, they're pitching. Miles Michaelis is your opening day starter. I don't know about that team. I don't know where they're going. But yeah, Arenado worries me.
I think we're okay with Goldschmidt slowing down 36, 37, right? That's totally fine. He's good. It is what it is. But Arenado's 32, and that's an age that you need to build your resume. He only has 47 Fangraphs WAR right now. B-WAR likes him more, but like he's got work to do in some ways, and it's not a good place for him to just suck all of a sudden. Cardinals fans, don't look him up on Twitter. They don't like him right now at all. They hate him.
No. It's people that suck. Evan Carter doesn't have a hit yet. I know it's Monday. It's only been 4 games, but Evan Carter has 0 hits. So are we panic selling all of our Bowman draft Evan Carter autos?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, you probably should, to be honest.
I don't have any. I don't really sell, but
with Arenado and Goldschmidt, I mean, I think people expected some age-related regression, even though Arenado is a bit younger. And with Goldschmidt, he showed it a lot last year. In the underlying numbers, I think swing and miss was way up. Like, he's not catching up with the fastball up in the zone anymore as much. I think that was one of the issues with him. Arenado,
I do want to know, for Goldschmidt, though, he still has a 912 OPS right now with a home run. So it's not as bad as Arenado. He has a negative 54 WRC plus. So that's not good. And he has negative 0.3 WAR already.
Oh, okay.
Why do I feel like you didn't even read that off your computer? I felt like that number was just in your head. Like, you were looking straight ahead the whole time. Like, I am concerned.
Well, you can't have a negative OPS plus, right?
No, he has a negative 44 WRC plus.
So is the middle ground 0 with OPS?
You can have a negative OPS plus.
What about WRC plus?
Yeah.
Oh,
I can show you.
I thought the whole point was like 54.
Like 100, like under 100 is bad. So he's
but you can
get below 0.
Below, I don't know. Let me show you this real quick.
Okay. Below 0 has got to be like a double play every at bat.
Great. Making 2 outs.
WRC plus Arenado, negative 44.
Oh my God. What the?
It's below 0, right? 0 is not the lowest you can go.
Oh, so when Tovar had a 70 WRC plus last year, that was actually not that bad. Okay.
Compared to Nolan Arenado in 2024.
Obviously, it's pretty bad, but yeah.
But I feel like I'm allowed to bash him a little bit because I defended him on this channel way too much. So, anyways.
I will also say, we're talking about big stars that look a little shaky. Acuna had his first extra base hit today. He had 5 hits in the first 2 games, but they were all like kind of base hits back up the middle. So I feel like he's still finding it. Like, he got a late start because of his knee as well.
Do you think it's that, or do you think it's the knees hurting him?
No. The knee is not
so?
The first time he got on base, he stole second base.
That's right. I actually watched that happen. But he also struck out a few times, which is a little bit abnormal for him, who he was last year. And a couple
he's hyper aggressive right now. Like, he's hacking away at a lot of like 2-0 and a couple 3-0 pitches I saw that were debatable. So I think he's just trying to find it. I think he's healthy. He looks fine on the outfield.
So what was Fernando Tatis's max exit velo last year, Scott? Because he's had some pretty hard hit home runs so far.
Let me look.
That home run off Rogers is unreal. I think I watched it like 10 times. I don't understand the physics of it.
Can you explain what happened for those that didn't see it?
Pitch is coming up, and
he's like a submarine pitcher, kind of.
Yeah, rising fastballs, they used to call him.
Yeah, and Tatis, I think it was an 0-2 count. He just turned on it and just yanked it down the left field line. I feel like when he made contact, Jeff, it was like shoulder high. It looked like and coming up, it was like hitting a slope, fast pitch softball pitch.
So Tatis was one of my players that I would consider buying. I didn't because it's just not my personal PC of a guy, but like I see so many great signs with Fernando Tatis Jr. He actually had his hardest hit ball of his career this year so far.
Oh, geez.
116 point. Can you see this? Is it teeny?
Yeah. So what was last year's max exit velo? And that was
Right
an
here.
average of the top 3 versus 116?
116.7 is the
Okay,
hardest ball
so
he's
he
ever
might be
hit.
back. He might be back.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like last year he came back, got booed every time he was up against every single team. People are kind of over the steroids thing now, in my opinion. You know, you kind of have your one season and then now they don't care. The Padres aren't supposed to be a juggernaut, so they don't care as much. And I think there's a chance that we see him just go crazy. He had a few misplays in the outfield, actually, which is surprising. He had a straight up just missed the ball, hit him in the glove, and he fell down. And so that could regress a little bit, which would make sense. But I still think he'll be well above average. And his sprint speed's still 90th percentile. So we could see the year of Tatis.
So do we think, the three of you, like let's say he goes 30-30 and he has a great year. Do we think, does the hobby rebound in their love of Tatis, or as the hobby sort of, can the relationship be repaired? Are we all in on buying his cards? Even if he's great? Are we forgiving? Well,
my thoughts.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Tyler, if he was here, Teapot would mention, right, in his last conversation with Dynasty, he said younger bloods coming in, they like RPAs. Well, baseball still has a lot of very older people in it, and I think they'll hold steroids against him pretty intensely, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. I think that puts a ceiling on his cards. So I think definitely could go up, though.
I see ceiling on like his highest end stuff.
Yes.
And I think the low to mid end does pretty well, where people have less reservation, or they have more confidence that they can move a card that they buy for 800 versus buying one for 2,800 and trying to find an idiot to buy it for like 38 to 4,300.
That's a good point.
Because of the nature of the guy. Like, this is a hot potato. You could get stuck with it. This is not. We don't need to talk about Ohtani here, but the viewpoint on steroids is you're cheating in a way that gives you an advantage in the game, whether it's material or not, and whether we forgive bonds to an extent or not. You know, the gambling thing could hurt somebody's character, but does it really help them win? This assumes they're not betting on their own team or doing anything like that. But yeah, with Tatis, I'm not sure. 30-30, you said, Chris. Maybe you're just like spitting numbers. That's not good enough for Tatis' cards to go up, in my opinion. You need 40-40 at least.
Everybody has a 30-30 nowadays.
No.
It's not even good anymore, it feels
Corey
like.
Hart did that once, I think.
Yeah. All right, well, sure. Let's say he goes 40-50. I mean, we know where the bar is. The 40-70 bar has been put down.
Yeah, and he's already hit 40 home runs in his career.
I kind of think the collecting public will be a little more forgiving if he puts a year together like that. So last year we saw him come back and he just wasn't the same hitter, even though he was exceptional on defense. He wasn't the same hitter. So if he put the season together like that, and we're sitting here next year talking after the first week of the season and he's mashing the ball again, I feel like there could actually be some movement. But like we've talked about with some other players before, I think once bitten, twice shy, they're going to want to see a full season out of him, steroid free, that he could put that together. And of course, there's going to be people who will never go near him. So I'm sure the ceiling is limited, but I feel like his cards could still be popular, movable.
Yeah, I don't know who mentioned it, but the low to mid end, like, you know, a couple $100 to maybe a couple $1,000. I think there's a play there, and someone I actually think could be valuable. I made a video on him already this offseason about how I think that his cards could appreciate if he hits. And if that's the case, I do think that he will move regardless of steroids. I think long-term, the steroids will impact him a lot more than short-term. Short-term, we like players who are good. Long-term, we look at players' careers. And so I don't think he'll be an all-time great. Maybe he is, but I don't think he will be. A-Rod's an all-time great, and no one cares because he did steroids. But in the short term, I think Tatis has great opportunity. So,
yeah, it was Phil that said that, and I think he hit the nail on the head. People are more likely to be like, Tatis is doing great. I'll drop $400 or $500, but I'm not spending $2K.
By the way,
that's my own personal mindset. Like, I'm not spending more than $1,750, and not everybody's gonna think like me, but I think it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So about his first at bat, you want to know what he did?
Who? I didn't hear the name. Sorry, you cut out.
Soto. Sorry, Juan Soto had his first at bat.
Where are they right now?
They are in Arizona.
Oh,
Walk.
so it's facing up.
He walked.
Yeah, walk seems like the most likely.
Walked, and then Aaron Judge got a single, so they're rolling. Great. Well, there's one other player I want to talk about, and then whoever else you guys want to talk about. But Bryce Harper, if you didn't see his second game of the season or third game, he cartwheeled over the railing along the dugout, and it looked like it hurt. It looked like it really hurt. And after those first two games, he had an off day that was, what did they say? It was a planned off day, scheduled off day. But realistically, he probably freaking hurt his hip so bad from saying.
Yeah, he was like, I was watching that game. Obviously, he was holding his hand a lot.
Dude, if he has a hurt wrist take forever to heal. Take it from me who sprained my wrist before in basketball. It's my shooting wrist when I was in high school, and it still hurts me, and I'm 29. So it's one of those things where it can really take some time to heal. So
I love passion. I want to see intensity. I really thought Jeff McNeil, instead of yelling at Reese Hoskins, like either punch him in the face or walk away. Like he just kind of looked like he was just sort of chirping away. Like Jeff and I played softball, people like that. It's kind of annoying. But I don't know what Harper was remotely thinking. It's his home ballpark, and he just ran into like a knee-high wall and cartwheeled 6 feet down onto concrete. I was absolutely flabbergasted by what I was seeing. It was like he'd never set foot on the field before.
It wasn't graceful.
No, and it was pointless. It was the first inning of the second game. What are you doing? Like the team needs you.
That is a really stupid design to have that there. To even have that there. The short
there should be like a screen or something, but it was like
or lift it up. I mean, put it a little higher. Yeah, it's crazy that it is his home ballpark, because you'd think he would know everything about that, all the measurements and things. But yeah, that was
that's a consequence of not playing first base before.
True,
right? And just throwing him at first base in real game speed is very different than taking pop-ups in batting practice.
Imagine if
I was watching that game with my wife, and my wife said, "Oh my God, he's dead." I think he died.
Imagine if he caught it, though. He would have a new floor to his card values. He'd be perceived just like Derek Jeter. He comes up, he's got blood on his cheek, just like, and the fans just buy into it because we're dumb fans. And all of a sudden, you've got a guy, Derek Jeter. I mean, no different than Craig Biggio, right? But selling for a ton because the fans love him. I'm just kidding, but kind of like if he did that, it would be a big deal to the fans if he actually caught that ball in a meaningless game. Jason Varitek one time dove. He was so key to our success that year. And then he dove and he broke his elbow. I think he landed on like the on deck circle, like, and he missed the ball. And I remember talking to somebody the next day and like, oh, I guess it wasn't worth it. He's out for 4 months. I'm like, no, it wasn't worth it. The ball drops. It's not even a base hit. It's literally a foul ball. And then I don't think we did much that year in the playoffs.
That's the funny thing about that Harper highlight. Obviously, the ball hit the net where he was trying to catch it, but the ball ended up landing like 10 feet behind him because it hit the net and then bounced in. But it just looks stupid. But another player that I'm worried about is actually there's a few. So Lindor, I bought some of his cards, and he's someone I also went on a limb on and said I think if he can have one more 6-WAR season, right? Like he's at 47 F-WAR at age 29. I think this is a big year for him. He's looked bad. He's hitting 0.67 at the 243 OPS, and he's looked bad. And the last one, there's someone else I thought of. But any thoughts on Lindor? You're not worried about him. He's kind of a very streaky guy in general.
Yeah, he's going to be a stud, dude. I still think he'll get to 6-WAR.
I hope so.
Like, I know we said earlier, like we're going to be like talking about stuff that doesn't matter in a few weeks, but give it a couple months for a lot of these guys. Gunnar Henderson, he was trash for the first 2 months. We know Blake Snell, how that went last couple of years. Give it at least a month and a half. And for some of these proven guys, give it a little bit longer.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, great. Any final people we want to discuss?
Yeah, is anyone buying Teoscar Hernandez? He's on pace for like 195 RBIs. Anyone buying those cards?
I picked him up in my fantasy draft. My last fantasy draft of the year, I picked him up.
Great value.
Ty bought his dynasty rookie.
I wouldn't be surprised. I was about to miss that conversation, but I watched that video. That was a really good one. The comments were fired up. People have a lot of strong opinions on Pat.
People did have strong opinions on it. People want it to be a thing, and I too want it to be a thing. I'm just not sure if it's going to be a thing.
One more guy I want to talk about though. Phil, what did you think of Strider's curveball? Now we've got to see it in action in a game that matters.
Yes, I was going to bring that up earlier, but we had already talked about a couple pitchers, and I know people are probably already, closing the screen and not watching the rest of this video because of that. But Strider had a few curveballs that were misclassified by ESPN. I wasn't watching the game. I had on like the game cast, and I was seeing like 83-mile-an-hour sliders. If you follow Strider, you know his slider is a little bit faster than that, right? Closer to like 87, 88. Yep. So I did. You had said, Chris, I missed the actual at bat, but he made Brandon Marsh look foolish. Struck him out, maybe. How many did he throw? 2, 3, 4?
No, he threw a bunch. He was throwing them more. I think ESPN really had a hard time with it. I'm not sure what the game metrics are going to be.
I saw with change up he had at least 5 or so, and then I figured he just had fewer curveballs than that, but maybe not. He
was throwing a decent amount of changeup. He was going like at Schwarber inside with changeups, which was kind of funny to see. But yeah, I mean, he got burned on a fastball that was just not in a great spot. But
it's funny, one start and it means nothing, but like if you extrapolate those stats, that's like Strider, like 3.6 ERA after one start, 8 Ks in 6 innings.
5 innings.
Oh, 5 innings. Okay, so we'll go a little bit deeper than that usually, but not that much deeper.
Yeah.
So,
did you guys watch Yamamoto pitch for the Dodgers? His second start, he looked good,
locked in.
Real good.
I know he was really bad in Korea, not like in the Korean League in the KBO. I mean, literally in the game in Korea, he only pitched 1 inning and let up like 5 runs. He only did that like 3 times ever in Japan. Like, it was pretty surprising, but then we saw him this last week, and he was great. 5 innings pitched, no runs. Makes you realize why he won 3 MVPs in a row in Japan through his age 25 season. So he could be a decent guy to consider, especially if we're looking at weeks. We're aware of him debuting late. Do you ever think someone like that could have value if he's good, right? Not like an average, but like a good. We see Yu Darvish. He has to be better than Yu Darvish, but if he is there a Hall of Fame path for someone like Yamamoto and his cards?
I would say yes. I think any starting pitcher, like he's signed for, is it 8 or 10 years? Like his contract is long, right?
It's at least 10. It's double digits.
Okay. Something like that. All right. If he's healthy for 10 years and throws up 160 to 200 innings every year, and I think it's something that's going to become the new bar. The new starting pitcher. Don't get me started on starting pitchers versus relievers again. But I do feel like if he can put up, that level of innings with this kind of production, there's absolutely a Hall of Fame path for him, especially if he starts having huge October moments for that Dodger team.
Yeah, and especially, if he has big October moments, he's going to always have a floor. Well, one, because of the fan base in Japan, I think will collect him, right? If he's able to come over and dominate. And I don't blame them for collecting him, and then also Dodgers fans. Also, Arenado just had an RBI double, so he is out of the funk.
Turn it around. We'll just have to edit that part out, I guess.
No, leave it.
I'm kidding.
You first jinxed him.
Yamamoto, he's going to have a lot of short-term upside, and it's because look at Kodai Senga last year. He's now 31, and he had his MLB debut patch card sell for about 20K. Hopefully, and that was when he was injured.
Yeah.
And maybe he won't miss the entire season. I think he's got some shoulder thing going on, but. Yoshida's another guy last year that had value a little bit, not a lot, but that's a guy like he's getting collected, whether it's, fans overseas or it's some fans here that just like him and fans of the team, as you said, Scott, that definitely helps Dodger fans. So Yamamoto coming over here younger with a much higher statistical ceiling. He could be an interesting dude, and he doesn't have a Bowman first. He's in like the Bowman Nippon League product. He's got Topps Chrome cards from Japan. Those are technically licensed, but he might be in Bowman, which comes out in about 5 weeks.
He should be
24 Bowman, and if he is, he should have a rookie autograph. And because he doesn't have a first Bowman autograph, that'll be his most desirable card, I would say, at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. There'll probably be redemptions, right? I'm assuming to the way that Topps works. I think they'll be live, Phil. You're the king of Bowman.
So they print things like 3 to 4 months in advance. When did he get posted? Was it? It was around like New Year.
But when did he sign?
I would guess it's redemption. His Topps Chrome rookie could probably be in the product, but that Bowman one, I think that's cutting it real close.
It's probably safe.
He should. I'm not surprised if he's in it, but I'm guessing it would at best be a redemption, right?
More importantly, what is the card? So when Series 2 comes out, Yamamoto is going to have a rookie. His golden mirror is there an image? That golden mirror SSP rookie, it's got to be like a shot of him and Ohtani, right?
Has to be.
Probably
of his game in Korea.
They can't fumble that. They just can't. They can't mess that up. That has to be the card.
They probably had a shot of the two of them and the interpreter that was going to the printer, and they have to go back and try to Photoshop them out.
You got to crop it, make it go from horizontal to vertical. You know,
what we're going to get is going to be him in an airbrush uniform in a game 2 years ago in Japan. That's what we're going to get. You're going to be happy with it, and you're going to buy it.
Ah, man, the thing I really want, I want the dual auto out of Heritage, the Otani Yamamoto auto in Heritage that has to be there in the high number set. That's going to be awesome.
And then they're talking about, Phil, what's his name? The other young guy.
Imanaga is dominated today. Are you talking about him? He's another guy with short-term upside because he's
it was the Rockies.
I know. But he could be pretty good too. And unlike Yamamoto, he showed in the spring that he's not having as some of these guys, they struggle to adapt to the new baseball, the feel and everything. And Imanaga showed a bit more consistency in the spring, so he could dominate right away. Yamamoto might be a little bit up and down in April, but I mean, he looks locked in now. Put him in your fantasy lineups if you haven't already.
And then the other pitcher I was talking about, though, is Sasaki. Did I say his name? Sasaki?
Oh, that's going to be posted?
Roki Sasaki.
Yeah,
yes.
People are banking on, Bob Nightingale, so take it with a grain of salt.
Yes.
He said that it is like a done thing. He wants to pitch for the Dodgers. He wants to beat Otani and Yamamoto. And if that happens, dude, the Dodger brand is going to be international.
Just make Glass now the closer now. Or Justin May. He can be the eighth inning guy. Like that team.
Yep.
People forget they have Kershaw still.
Yeah.
Yeah. They might get something out of Bueller yet this year. Kershaw.
Yeah, I actually think this elevated team as a bets collector has helped Mookie just not be stressed because it's all the stress is on Otani. If Mookie's bad, no one cares. If Otani's bad, if the Dodgers lose the playoffs this year in the first round, Mookie's always the sad image. It's going to be Otani. And I think Mookie knows that. And I think that helps him not care as much and not have as much stress.
Can you imagine the Dodgers get swept by a wild card team in the first round this year?
The Rockies. Or Jeff is more like.
One of my favorite, for pure entertainment purposes, one of my favorite spring training stories was Chris Bryant calling out like the prospects in his own organization for like, he's like, I wish I'd checked to see the depth of this organization. The prospects, if I looked at our prospects, I would never have signed here, which is just preposterous in every imaginable way. And then he comes out and he's like 0 for 16 with like 9 Ks. He
is the devil to me right now, Chris.
He's got to be the most disliked, one of the most disliked players. That interview was so preposterous. I just can't imagine saying that.
It's not the prospects themselves. It's like the development of pitchers is non-existent. So like, was he talking about there's no pitching prospects here? There haven't been for 20 years.
Yeah.
What he said in hindsight was he meant to say he didn't look at the prospect a bit like of other teams, the thought prospect.
Oh,
that's what he
really
said.
He was talking about like a team's potential. Like their prospects for future success.
I didn't see the quote. Chris butchered that.
But it sounds horrible.
No, I did not butcher it. He backtracked like crazy.
Okay.
And he came in and apologized and said he's really excited, and now he sucks.
He was blinded by $184 million when no other team was offering him like 75. And
that could be
like, whatever, I'll go play.
That could be one of the worst contracts of all time.
Like a Chris Davis deal. Yeah.
Worse. I think it could be worse. Because at least, didn't Chris Davis at least have like one good year, or was it immediately bad? I can't remember.
Not after he signed the contract. No.
Yeah.
The contract was after the good year.
So, funny thing, Billy Butler, I haven't said his name in a few episodes. He is the largest signing in Oakland A's history.
Everybody, if you're watching, it's time to drink.
Are you serious?
Billy Butler is still the largest signing in Oakland A's history. Literally, 3 years, $30 million. Not free agent free agent sign, not an extension, but free agent signing. And people really did not like him when he was there because he wasn't great. So
that's more than Crush Davis got.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyways, so I think it's a good place to end this episode. And everybody, thank you for watching. We appreciate you all, and we will see you in the next one.